All right, welcome to the second episode of the Fantasy Sports Trap. Michael Potter.
Deron Phillip.
And we just completed our draft.
Just yesterday.
Yeah, on Sunday, the 29th of March.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Deron, first overall impressions of the draft.
Well, we got a real good participation, I thought. We only had one team that wasn't there. That was Team Britain.
Team Britain didn't make it.
Evidently, there was a little confusion about the start time.
Yeah, and we can take a little bit of blame for that. I mean, we sent out the letter and it said 4 p.m., but it said Eastern Standard Time and not 1 p.m. And we didn't really send out reminders other than the day before.
Right.
But it was just that saying 4 p.m. So they thought it was 4 p.m. local time, and we're 3 hours difference. So
right. But with that being said, the other 9 teams were there, and they were.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do math. I mean, 4 minus 3, it's 1 p.m. draft.
But they better step it up.
Isn't Billy a teacher too?
Yeah, I think he is.
Not good. He might even be teaching math.
Is he?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know. But anyway, they didn't make the draft, but the 9 other teams did. We had to get Docs and Jocks. Dr. Dan was in Dallas, I believe, with the Son of the Baseball deal, and Brandon Hawk, his producer, was supposed to be the guy on, and he forgot about it. So I did text him and say, hey, where are you guys? And he jumped on. We had a couple guys jump on right at the last minute. Jeff McKenzie Howard flew back in from Europe for the draft. But 9 out of 10, that's a pretty good draft.
It is.
You only have 1 on auto draft.
Yeah, because once you start getting multiple teams on auto draft, that's where it gets to be a little bit of a pain. Although with the auto draft, the pick happens right away. You don't have to wait for the full 60 seconds.
Yeah, the first time it takes forever, and I think actually somebody, I think Morgan Domorowski texted me and goes, we have to wait 60 seconds or every. I go, no, it'll pick up faster after the second time through.
Right.
I will say this though, however, Team Britain, I do have a bone to pick with you already because of auto draft. I had written down, just so we know, we'll get into this, I had written down the 3 guys I wanted to get, and I got the first 2, and the third guy was coming up, but he was the next one slotted to auto draft, so he automatically went to Team Britain, and then nobody else I think would have taken him. They took pictures, so I'm pretty sure I would have gotten my 3 guys in a row, but because you guys were on auto draft, I didn't get the third guy I wanted, so I'm still a little upset about that.
Yeah. But enough about Team Britain. They actually put together.
Well, let's talk about their team.
A decent team, really. They got Goldschmidt. That was their first. That was their first pick.
Yeah, and they were, 4th overall?
They were right behind me. Yeah, they were 4th overall.
And that's a good pick. I mean, Goldie was one of those guys who a lot of folks liked him even in the top 3 possibly.
Right.
But he wasn't going to get past like 5 or 6. So that's a good pick. I mean, right?
Right.
That's an easy.
Then they got Puig, He's no slouch.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a nut job, but he puts up numbers.
Right. And then they went with the Brantley pick. That's what
Michael Brantley's who I wanted.
You were just talking about. Ellsbury, they've got, going down there, Howie Kendricks playing second now for the Dodgers. Dickerson with Colorado, they got Big Papi. And pitching staff is where they're going to probably need to do a little retooling there. They don't really have much in the way of closers, just a couple there, but and one of them's injured, so they're going to have to kind of look at that. And
the guy I like that they ended up getting is Carlos Gonzalez in Colorado, because he's a guy hurt guy, and if he's healthy this year, which he probably won't be, but in those stretches he's healthy, he'd be a top 3 or 4 pick.
Right.
When he's healthy, because he does everything. So there's some of those guys that they have huge upsides. Now their downside is they're average or a little bit below average, but they have huge upsides. And so just for Team Britain, if you have to retool, if you have a couple of losses or whatever in the year and you have to retool, what you do is you get a guy like that gets hot, but you're nervous he might go out in 4 or 5 weeks with an injury.
Right.
Trade him. Trade him, get somebody that's more steady, maybe get a pitcher. If Cargo gets going and starts crushing, you might not want to trade him, but if you do, you could probably get a decent starting pitcher and maybe a position player to replace him if he heats up.
That's a good point.
So you can always fix by trading, which I love to do. I was actually, when we were drafting, I kept in the message board. I was like, want to trade? Who wants to trade? Nobody wanted to. I think everybody's focused on their draft, but I wasn't.
You'll have a Taker and Dale. They'll trade with you.
Shuffle trade with me. He didn't reply much though to the in thing. He was locked in.
He was locked in. Yeah, and I think I was a little bit overwhelmed. I mean, it's a grind. I mean, you're talking about a 25-round draft, and for us who really haven't played in a few years,
right?
You see all these names and just like going, is this guy really good? I don't really know. I mean, I kind of did some research, but I was like kind of cramming for a final back in our Canyon days, trying to figure out who these guys were. But
I think Schuff actually responded to one thing about halfway through and said, I guess I should have been paying more attention to ESPN the last 5 years. Because some of these guys were like, who is that guy? I mean, some people were like, who is that you picked a great pick for the Red Sox.
Mookie Betts.
Yeah, Mookie Betts. And who was it? Was it Baracho Bandit said, who's Mookie?
Who is that?
Yeah,
Never
he's
heard of
going to
him.
lead off for the Red Sox.
Yeah. So
He's going to score a lot of runs.
Yeah. How were you with your draft? How do you think you did?
You know, I used my strategy was 100% to just simply go after the big boppers once again. And I just run after
It worked before.
position players. Yeah. I love the position players. I was going to wait till about the 8th or 9th round to start getting closers. So I was going to get position players and closers and try to win 4 or 5 of the offensive categories and just have to pick up one and then pick up saves. That's kind of my goal. It's hard to do, but when I did it before, it kind of worked.
Right.
So my hitters, man, I like my boppers.
You got some guys that can mash.
But then who was it? Somebody started picking closers like in the 4th round or something like
Yeah.
that. Was it McKenzie? Was it Toronto? He grabbed a top closer, I
There
think.
was a run on closers there for a little bit.
And I was going to wait till the 7th round, but then once they started going, Greg Holland went, a couple other guys went, and so I was like, well, I can wait now till about the 9th round to do that.
Right.
But no, I liked mine. I mean, I took, with the overall pick, I was number 6, I took Carlos Gomez, who I like him. He's a 5-tool guy. I took Tulowitzki in the 2nd round. When he's healthy, he's phenomenal. So hopefully he can play 140, 150 games this year. I know that's, knock on wood. I was going to take Michael Brantley with the 3rd pick, but got Ryan Braun, the first of my cheater picks. And then, to go on, I ended up with Chris Davis at 3rd, the 2nd of my cheater picks, Adrian Gonzalez at first base, Brian Dozier at 2nd, and then I picked, Upton in the outfield, Hayward in the outfield, A-Rod, 3rd of my cheater picks. So I have like the all-steroid team. I hope those guys can get back on steroids and not get caught because I need them to produce.
Right. And those guys for that reason, I was not going to touch him. I'm not an Adrian Gonzalez fan for other reasons too. We won't
You
get
don't
into
like
on the
100
show.
RBIs a year?
No, I don't. Well, it's just a personal thing though. I don't want him on my team.
I know.
I don't want him representing.
If you live in Arizona, you probably know why.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that was very.
So you passed on guys just because you personally don't like them and don't want to personally have to root for them.
Yeah, pretty much. They were not even on my cheat sheet. That might be the wrong way to go about things if you're trying to win a fantasy title, but I just didn't.
I think that what that says is you have a lot more character than I do. Because I'm very amoral when it comes to
Well, it is,
I'm like, I don't get, you can be the biggest scumbag in the world and cheater, but if you can hit 30.
If you can hit 30.
You're on Bush with Looper.
That's right.
No, so I was really happy. And then just to finish off with mine, I ended up grabbing Fernando Rodney, and Baracho Bandit was funny. He messaged and said, just for the fact that the guy can't wear his hat straight, I'd never pick him. Houston Street, Zach Britton, Drew Storen.
You got some nice closers there. Yep.
And Wade Davis, I picked him. So who knows? I might avoid this right away or get out of it, but my kind of plan is to really go after it offensively. And on the pitching side, win saves, ERA, and whip.
Yeah.
Now that's dangerous because you have so few innings when you have closers and a guy like Wade Davis who might only pitch 3 innings in a week or 2 innings in a week. If they get blown up 1 inning, you're dead.
You're basically done for the week.
But if your closers pitch well, you could have an ERA under 1.5 and a whip under 1 and have 7 or 8 saves or 10 saves and win it. And
right. Well, we'll put it to the test
we'll
in week 1 because we actually are playing each other in week 1. Racers against the Loopers.
That's crazy, man.
It is crazy.
How that works out.
But
so what about you? How do you like your draft?
I thought it was. Let
me just say this before. It was funny because the last message I sent to everybody was, let us know what you think of your draft. I guarantee you I'm going to get a call from Deron in about 30 minutes, and he's either going to say, I hate my draft or I love my draft. Deron's rarely in between.
Right.
But usually he doesn't talk much during the draft, but then afterwards it's like, I can't believe I picked this guy. What am I doing? So did you hate it or did you love it?
I kind of liked it.
Or are you in between?
Maybe a little in between, but I thought it was a pretty
You're growing.
decent. Yes, I am. I'm maturing.
Maturing.
But anyway, I went with my first pick. I went with Stanton. It was kind
that
of
surprised me a little bit there.
Yeah, it was kind of a toss-up. I was looking at Miguel Cabrera, and we talked about that he's kind of been dinged up a little bit, but Stanton is just let's face it, he's an all-out masher, and I wanted to go with a guy that was going to maybe potentially get me 40 home runs, over 100 RBIs, and he's on a Marlins team that is actually pretty decent. So
yeah, they're picked.
Yeah.
Did it bother you at all the fact that the last time we saw him at the plate in a major league game, he got his face exploded and he hasn't hit major league pitching since then? Other than he's doing pretty well in spring training.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I did read that it seems like he's been over that.
Yeah, I think he's doing well in spring training.
Yeah,
and he is. I think if it hadn't been for that situation, and maybe the stolen bases Mike Trout gives you, to me he might be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, he just puts up disgusting numbers.
You know, when he hits about 270 too, it's not like he's down around 250 or anything like that. After that, I went for stolen bases. I was kind of I had the Jose
right
Altuve earmarked on Houston, second base, steals a bunch of bases. And second base, to me, and shortstop were probably the thinnest positions in this draft. And so I wanted to kind of take care of those right off the bat. So I took Altuve, and then I went with Ian Desmond of Washington in round 3, shortstop.
Yeah, and saying that thing thin, I mean, basically what that means is you prepare for drafts, you look at them, and you say, look, if I don't get one of the top 2 guys in this position, there's not that much of a difference between 3 and 9.
Right.
You know, so if you don't, like I took Tulowitzki in the second round, so I got my shortstop. But then I didn't take a second baseman until much later in Dozier because he was still there. But, you know, if I don't get Cano, is it that much of a difference? No, or Altuve, who's going to give you 60 steals.
Right.
Is it that much of a difference between the guy who goes 3 and Dozier at
Probably,
6 or 7?
probably not. Yeah, and that's kind of that's how I felt about the starting pitching because I actually was looking, and I know you were surprised at this. I was looking at possibly getting Scherzer if he was going to be available.
Yeah.
And but he wasn't, and then some starting pitchers started coming off the board. I'm like, you know what? There's plenty of guys out there, like you just said. I had done some research on some of the starting pitchers, and so I felt pretty comfortable that I'll be able to get some serviceable guys. So,
but all top to bottom, you liked it?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. Yeah.
It's always, you never know until you actually start playing.
Right.
But, yeah, you took some starting pitchers. You got some closer guys there.
Yeah.
Everybody did something a little bit differently. Some guys are going for that more balanced attack. They want 2 or 3 good closers. Like you look at Morgan and Brendan Domorowski. I thought their team was very balanced when you look at it. They have good closers. They have good starters. I think they might be a little thin at closer. I can't remember. But they have good starters who are going to give them wins, strikeouts, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a good balanced lineup.
They do.
I thought. So they're a very balanced team to play it kind of straight, as opposed to other people who say, I'm going to try to win a certain number of categories. I'm going to try to win 6 out of the 10 categories every week. Like Mackenzie Howard, the Toronto Mounties, he said, hey, I'm going to try to get runs and stolen bases and batting average. So that's my 3 there. And I'm going to try to get wins, strikeouts, and saves. So he drafted to try to win 6 categories every week and go 6 and 4.
Right.
Whereas Morgan and Brendan have a very balanced team where some weeks if guys don't hit, they could lose 3-7, and other weeks if everybody hits, they could ace you.
Right.
10-0, you know?
Right. I was kind of looking at that too. I was trying to get more of not really focusing on specific categories, but just kind of having well-rounded players. And so
Mary.
anyway, we'll see how it works out. Yeah, Mary's my dog, and Iggy now is chiming in. He's going nuts too. So if you can bear with us, we'll get through the rest of this.
Now you also, we talked about it at the very end of the episode 1, where we talked about the fact that you'll get in a groove and you'll find out that there's a guy that kind of has the same idea as you do, and all of a sudden you'll see your guys start going off right before you have a chance to the same guy, and you had that happen to you in this draft.
Tom Brown was just killed
Phoenix
me.
Tower.
Yeah, Phoenix. He just killed me in this draft because there were so many guys, and granted he was a few picks ahead of me.
And he's the newbie.
Yeah, he was. Let's see.
Well, coming back, he was down below you, but coming back up.
Coming back up.
He's always in front of you, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a snake draft.
And there must have been 4 or 5 guys in particular that he just rattled off.
Who were some of the guys? I know he took Jose Bautista 8, and I think Toronto Mounties was going to take Bautista at 10 if he had fallen. But if he had fallen at 10, that would have been a great pick. But Tom picked him up at 8.
I was looking at Jorge Soler on the Cubs, because he's got a lot of possible upside as far as homers were concerned. I was looking at that Xander Bogaerts on Boston. Because he's he can play a corner and a middle position. He's eligible at both of those. Corey Kluber I was looking at, a nice starter for Cleveland. Tyler Ross on San Diego. There were some guys that I thought might slide further than they did, especially when you're drafting with some people that haven't played before or haven't played in a while. But they got picked up, and so it was I think it's going to be a very competitive league that we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, and Tom, the newbie, he texted me after watching the first episode and said, hey, I love the fact that you call me a newbie. It's going to make it that much sweeter when I beat you guys.
Yeah, okay. So. Well, we'll see, Tom. Game on.
Yeah,
Tom.
I like the fact that everybody's kind of cocky a little bit. A couple of guys Tom took that I really liked. I had my eye on Neil Walker at second base as my second base shortstop guy, because with Tulowitzki, you're going to have to fill in at some point there. Neil Walker's a great pick, and he got in pretty late. I really like him a lot. And then there was one other I really like. Oh, Albert Pujols. Pujols is killing the ball right now. And if Pujols is one of those guys that he's looked old ever since he left St. Louis, but I think he's always had injuries. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's had those nagging injuries that just, the toe hurts or the elbow, or it just makes you a step slower. If he's totally healthy in that lineup, he could do some serious damage. That was a guy I had to take him fourth after Brantley, and I think he was gone by that time.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking at Sir Albert at all. For that reason, I know injuries and just the grind of a full season. So I did grab the leadoff hitter on the Angels, and that's Cole Calhoun. So I think he'll work out pretty good.
Yeah, he went in the 5th round. Pools did at the 48th pick, and I was right before that, and I got Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez is a guy I loved. I wanted to get him. You want to get some Detroit Tigers guys because those guys just mash. You know, just like you want to get the guys in the top third of the order for the Anaheim Angels because they're going to score a ton of runs. Like you got the leadoff guy.
Right. I do have the top third of the order for the Houston Astros, which
you have the whole top third.
Yeah, I do. which could be a little scary. So we'll find out.
It's funny for a lot of you out there listening. If you're just baseball fans, you're going, "Why would you take Astros? They're going to have a bad year this year." Well, number one, they might not. They've got a great young team, but number two, they got a ton of guys that are going to put up fantasy numbers. Now, I don't know if they can pitch. That'll be their demise probably.
Right.
But offensively,
they got some guys
good
great.
Guys. I got Gaddis, their catcher, because I was looking at his numbers going, holy mackerel, and this guy hopefully will become outfield eligible after the first week because he's going to play outfield some as well. That's another thing to let you guys know. If a guy plays multiple positions, like I think right now A-Rod is just at third base and DH, but they're going to play him at first, and I'm not sure exact number, but if they play 5 to 10 games out of position.
It's 10 games this year. If they've played 20 the year before, that's the watermark. But if they played 10 games at the position this year, they become eligible for
just right away.
Right away.
Yeah. So then I can move. So with that catcher Gaddis, I can move him to outfield if I need to do that. I can move him around there. So it's kind of nice sometimes to find those guys who play more than just if they play third base and second. It gives you a lot of movement.
Well, you look at Altuve, the guy that I drafted. He's highly touted. You look at George Springer. He's touted as a power hitter. Yeah. And so you've got guys, Astros players, that people have been talking about in the offseason. So it's not like they're going to be total slugs. Now with A.J. Hinch managing, that's a whole other story. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but anyway.
He's a Stanford guy like Brendan Domorowski.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's a really smart guy.
He's got that going for him.
Can he manage? We'll find out this year. Shuffsville Slammers. We talked a lot about him being a very good player.
Yep.
He was joking around that he hasn't been really following it too much this year. But he's got some good pitching. He's got Max Scherzer, Zach Greinke. He got Aroldis Chapman.
That was the first closer off the board, by the way, and that was towards the end of the 5th round.
Yeah, I was waiting until the 7th, and I wanted to get Chapman and Holland, but then once he went.
Chapman, Kimbrel, and then Holland went. Yeah. And then a guy that Dale took that I really was looking at was Billy Hamilton on Cincinnati.
I was too.
And when he grabbed him,
what's he going to steal, 60, 70
yeah,
bases
something
this
like
year,
that,
probably?
yeah.
I mean, at least 50, 55.
In a hitter's park. So that was one that he kind of stole from me. It was a good pick. But Dale, he'll work it. He likes working the trade market, and he's got a certain strategy with that, and I'm sure he's going to be just fine. He'll compete. He always does.
Well, and with the 9th pick of the draft in the first round, he took Jose Abreu. And if Gomez was going to be gone, if somebody above me took him, unless, like Goldschmidt or Stanton or somebody fell, I was going to take Abreu, even over like probably Miguel Cabrera or somebody. I really like Jose Abreu. So he's got some pop in there. And then, he got a guy like Mark Trumbo, I'm sure later in the draft, a first baseman, third baseman. And he can play outfield as well, so he's got a lot of flexibility there. And Trumbo lost some weight this year, got in shape. If he's healthy, he can put up numbers. He just didn't do it crazy. He's not going to hit for a great average, but he can put up some numbers. So that was a nice pickup as well.
It's hard to say what the Diamondbacks are going to do, their hitters are going to do this year, because they really don't look like they're going to be that good of a team. But, you got Goldschmidt in there. Like you said, Trumbo turns it around. A.J. Pollock, who was selected by Domorowski, I believe. Team Domorowski took him. Later on in the draft, he's having a very good spring, and he could be setting the table for that lineup. So it'll be interesting to see how the Diamondbacks do. But I did not take any of them, and that was the main reason. I could have taken Goldschmidt, but I went with Giancarlo.
I don't think I got any Diamondbacks either. I mean, honestly, Goldschmidt is the one that is a no-brainer. But everybody else there's pros and cons for everybody else on the team, other than their closer. I just don't know how many opportunities to get. What's his name? Addison. He went.
Yeah.
The closer. But, you never know how many opportunities guys like that are going to get with the D-backs. But, I mean, that being said, they're probably going to play a lot of close games this year.
They probably will.
That's the one thing about taking a Detroit Tigers closer is like, well, the guy's going to – it's like taking a field goal kicker for a team that scores 45 points. He's going to kick extra points,
Addison Reed is that closer.
Addison Reed, yeah, he's a good pick. I don't know if we have to go through all these, but I thought, Baracho Bandis, did you talk to Pat at all after the
I
draft?
did, yeah. He said he had a lot of fun.
happy?
He was. He said I was prepared for it. I was, he was. And the thing with Pat was, for some reason, his computer was acting up, and he had to do what was called draft light, so he wasn't actually seeing what everybody else was seeing. But man, the guy he was chatting up a storm on there like he was just,
Yeah, he could see the chat, that's true. He got a guy I had my eye on Jonas Cespedes, but it was one of those where I wasn't going to pick him, I'm not sure where, and I had my eye on Nolan Ariando. He
Yeah.
was my third baseman I wanted.
Yep.
I'm not sure where he went. He went with the 65th pick. And I had him down like in the 70s. If he had to fall into the 70s, I would have grabbed him because I think he's going to be really good. And you like getting Rockies because they
oh
pass
yeah,
the ball.
oh yeah. And there were a few pitchers that Bandits took. Pat, Strasburg, and then I was looking actually I thought these two would slide even further than they did. Was Alex Cobb and Chris Archer on Tampa Bay. They're on a bad team, but. I was reading the Sports Illustrated. They were basically saying this might be one of the best staffs in the majors. They just might not hit the ball.
Really?
Yeah. And so I was looking at those guys, and then of course he grabbed them. I think he grabbed them back to back.
Isn't Tampa Bay might have the best staff in the majors?
Yeah, one of the top ones.
Why would Joe Madden leave?
I don't know.
Money,
Yeah.
money.
Benoit in San Diego being a closer there.
That's his only closer, though, right?
That's his only closer, so he's going to be hurting for saves.
Yeah, but at that pace, I mean, that is the only one category in the
right.
So that's another way to go. You stock up on these guys. You try to win, save strikeouts with all these pitchers.
Yep.
And you don't worry about it. You just give it away. It's only one category.
Yep.
My problem is because we steamed so much when we played before. It revolts me to take a starting pitcher.
Yeah, it was very difficult.
I
for me
took
to
one.
Do. Yeah.
Chris Tillman and I took him, and I was immediately mad at myself, so I never took another one. So I've got this one starter. So if anyone wants to trade for him, let me know.
Yeah.
Opening day started for Baltimore.
Team Brent, we kind of went over them already. Tillman Pride, they had the top pick in the draft, and of course they took Mike Trout. Looking at his team, he's got some good players. He went with
You would have taken
Chris Sale.
Trout, right? If you had first pick.
I would have taken Trout.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's one of the best no-brainers, and probably we haven't done it in a while. But I mean, when A-Rod was going on fire, he was a no-brainer. There's a few of those like that. Trout was the no-brainer this year. I think.
Yeah. So that was a good pick there, and then he went with he has Reyes at short. Which I was kind of looking at him, but from an injury standpoint, I kind of shied away a little bit.
I like Kipnis at second.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys. Like I said, if you don't get one of the top two guys, Kipnis, Dozier. To me, all those guys are very similar. Those are the two guys I was looking at, Kipnis or Dozier.
Right.
And he took Kipnis, so I grabbed Dozier.
I like Texas guys, and so I was looking at the Leonis Martin.
You like Texas guys?
Yeah, I do.
Because of the park.
Because of the park, yeah. And so.
Well, if they're healthy this year, they're gonna pound the ball around.
Yeah, they will.
And he grabbed Hunter Pence.
Yeah.
So he can stash him on his DL because Hunter's not going to play.
He's not going to play for probably a couple.
Yeah, but that's not a bad pick because you got that DL spot. You can slash them. They got him listed day to day now, but he'll go to DL. You slash him on that DL spot, and when he comes back, it might take him a few weeks to get going, but he's going to get going, and that's a great pick.
Mm-hmm. And let's see what else we got
You
here.
got Longoria. I liked David Wright too. David Wright was a guy I was looking at late because they're saying that David Wright's elbow or wrist or something is feeling better, and so he's going to start turning on the ball more. So it wouldn't be shocking me if he didn't hit 15 to 20 home runs this year.
Yeah.
And had kind of a comeback year, and he usually hits for a pretty decent average too.
I read something funny about the Mets and David Wright, and they say every year they keep moving the fences in for him because his power has been going down, and they suggested just move the fences back and let your pitchers do the work. So we'll see how.
Yeah, next year they're going to bring it to 175 down the right field line.
Little League Park.
Pop it out. Yeah, they play Rover in left field. Docs and Jocks, my buddy Dr. Dan, like I said, he was in Dallas, and Brandon Hawk, but I think when it came up to their picks, they used a lot of the whole time frame because I know he was on the phone with them, like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? They took a couple of guys in front of me that I really wanted, but they're in Texas, so you could see their benches. Neftali Feliz, which he's going to be good. He's back pitching mid-90s.
Right.
Mitch Moreland and Jake Smolinski.
Well, then you look at some of their starters, former Rangers. Ian Kinsler is their second baseman.
Yep.
You go down, you see Nelson Cruz, and of course they picked up Prince Fielder. So
they got Buster Posey at the catcher, and he can play catcher first base too.
Yep.
I think they're going to be fine there. They auto drafted their first pick, and that was Clayton Kershaw. But it's hard to. So they got Kershaw, David Price, Tanaka, and then they picked up Trevor Rosenthal. That was the one that hurt. I wanted to get Rosenthal.
Yep.
He was on my list, and they grabbed him. They got Derek Collins. So R.A. Dickey. So they've got a kind of a balanced team too. Mm-hmm. Not specifically going for any category, but just really balanced.
Right. Mounties, we talked about them.
Yeah, we talked about Mounties, pretty much trying to win some of those specific categories. But I don't know if did I talk about his closers? He got Kimbrell and Holland back to back, and anybody else for a relief pitcher?
Yeah, Cishek.
Oh, Cishek.
On Miami.
Is he going to be the closer there?
And Cecil in Toronto, he's going to be the closer as well. But he's kind of precarious.
He's got 2 good closers and 2 average or above average. I mean, they're closers though, so that's what you want. They're going to get the opportunity to do that.
Right.
And just so you know, McKenzie, I picked up Wade Davis for 2 reasons. Number 1, I wanted to have a couple Royals. Well, 3 reasons. Number 2, if I go with just trying to go relief pitchers and get low ERA, low WHIP, he's fantastic at that. Number 3, if Holland goes down, he's the closer.
Yeah.
Or if the Royals later in the year decide we're pulling the plug on this thing, I think he's only on a 1-year deal. He's a guy they're going to trade to a contender. He's going to get close opportunities down the stretch. So that's why I picked him.
Yeah.
So, Domorowski, we talked about them a little bit. They got a nice starting staff with Jordan Zimmerman, John Lester.
Now they're baseball people. They're connected. So, and the one that just killed me, and you talked to Morgan about this already.
Guy was.
Javier Baez on the Cubs. I'm like going.
That was the last pick, right?
Their last pick, and I was clowning around with some other picks towards the end of the draft, and I thought I'm going to pick this guy at the very last. He was questionable to make the Cubs roster. They're saying, he's got some plate discipline issues and so forth. He, in fact, the manager Madden was saying that, because they said, hey, we hear that he's going to make the club, and Madden basically said, who told you that? I didn't say that. So he's kind of a question mark, but he's got huge upside, and he offer a lot of power at middle infield. So I thought, I'm going to grab this guy. It's going to be great. Last pick of the draft. And Domorowski. Right before me.
242nd pick.
Yep.
That was Brendan's pick. He knows what he's doing. They also, I'm interested to find out too. They also picked Trevor Bauer on Cleveland, who
I had him on my cheat sheet as well. Yeah. So there were.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't have any starting pitchers on my cheat sheet. I hate starting
and it shows.
pitchers.
It shows.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be just.
And then you got mad. You got mad when he got the one. So.
I got the one guy, and I'm not gonna start him just out of spite.
Yeah.
That'll show him. He'll be bummed about that. Will Myers out in San Diego's an interesting team because it's the Grand Canyon out there.
Yeah.
So you got these. I took Upton, and I'm like, gosh, are his power numbers going to go down? Probably, but man, with the gaps and things, and I loved how he played last year, and now Matt Kemp's out there, and man, maybe he can gap some, hit for a high average, but he's got all kind of power. He can hit it out of anywhere. Adrian Gonzalez hit home runs there.
Right.
A guy like Will Myers, he's going to get on base and run in that park. So that's not a bad. I mean. They're interesting guys to pick in San Diego.
It'll be, I stayed away from them. I'm big on the ballparks, and Petco, it seems like these were, fly balls go to die there. They just do not go out. Jerko is another guy, second baseman, who's got some power, who can put it out in that park too. But I don't know. I don't know how many home runs he had last year, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. They've really improved their team quite a bit with who they have, and so.
D. Gordon, was he on your list?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I was looking at him too. I wanted him. I wasn't sure exactly where to take him, and I monkeyed around, and Domorowski's got him. It's funny because last year we were playing, Morgan and I were playing, we all had this little app, where you pick two guys that are going to get base hit, and if they get a hit, then you get like 4 points, and you try to break 56. It was like through Dunkin' Donuts or something like that. And D. Gordon was the guy. We'd be on the road with GC, and we'd always like pick up D. Gordon because he was getting hits left and right. Every game he would get a hit. So he was our guy. So when they drafted him, I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got a nice little team there, and they picked up Kung Fu Panda. One thing I did is and I don't know if I did a very good job because I didn't do a ton of research, but if you go deep, I try to stay away from guys who sign big contracts.
Yeah.
Guys seem to play great in their contract year or the year before. Guys who, and it's a generalization, guys who sign a huge deal and are locked in for years, sometimes they have a fall off. Not always. That's why with Kung Fu, I was looking at him, I was like, I'm not sure about that guy. But they started with Andrew McCutcheon. Brandon Moss was a guy I was looking at because he's a first base and outfield.
Yeah, he was on my list too. Yep. And plus he's going to Cleveland, and they're going to have a nice lineup there too.
Cleveland's going to have a nice lineup.
Yeah.
That American League Central.
It's tough.
It's going to be with Cleveland, with Detroit, with the Royals. That's going to be a nice little. I'm forgetting one. The White Sox. White Sox are going to be good too. Sorry. And we talked a little bit about Tom Brown, but I thought Tom, with the Phoenix Tower, he's playing this newbie thing because I crested him a newbie, and he is a newbie, but he didn't draft like a newbie.
No, he didn't. And, I told him during the draft, I said, dude, you're taking all my players.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Now, he does have some spec picks here. Chris Bryan of the Cubs just got sent to the minors today. So, and he's going to be there for the first week or so because
Yeah,
that was kind of expected. But
it's just a business decision. He'll come back up, and if he does half as good as he did in spring training, he's going to hit 30 home runs.
Right. Tomas on Arizona is another guy. They've been trying him at third base. He hasn't been working out that well there. They were talking about him on ESPN the other night. You know, a little bit overweight coming into camp, but I mean, the guy's got great potential. I actually had him on my list too for a late round flyer. I'm not sure where Tom took him.
already dropped somebody too.
Yeah, he did. He dropped.
He dropped. He didn't pick anybody up.
He's not even on his. I don't even know if it's. No, he didn't. Well, he can't.
He just dropped.
Waivers is tonight.
See, I'm really plugged in to the league.
Yeah. Mike Fiers. I have no idea who that is. Milwaukee starting pitcher.
Yeah, he's got Cole Hamels, Matt Harvey, Gio Gonzalez.
Kluber with Cleveland. Yeah.
He didn't take any closers, did he?
No, he did not.
Yeah. You like the Bogarts deal, though. Third base and shortstop.
Yeah.
Gives a little flexibility. I love the Neil Walker pick. Aaron Hill at second base. Aaron Hill's a pretty steady guy. He's going to hit the ball.
Yeah.
You know, and the D-backs, they do have a little bit in that lineup, depending on how they go, 2, 3, 4 through that lineup if guys play.
He got Rizzo playing first base, up and coming power hitter for the Cubs.
I like Rizzo a lot.
And Molina's always solid behind the plate. So,
Yachty.
A decent draft there for Tom. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the draft. It was fun. I thought it was good. We had good participation.
Yep.
Most people didn't even take their full 60 seconds or whatever to draft.
Right.
There were times after, like, when Brantley went and I was kind of scrambling. When you're scrambling, when you have a guy in your queue and that guy gets taken, and then you look up and it says 47. 47 seconds seems like a long time. It's not that long when you're scrambling. Because you're like, who do I take? And a couple times, I think I made the mistake and took a guy in front, and then the guy I kind of wanted was later, and you didn't have time to think that through.
Right.
But for the most part, I thought it was a really fun draft.
It was a lot of fun. And it gets me excited for baseball season again because I haven't played in a few years. And really, when I'm not playing fantasy baseball, I'm not really paying attention to what's going on. Especially if the Diamondbacks are having a tough year, I'm just like, I don't really care. But now, it's going to be interesting again. Interesting summer, so. But,
and so for everybody playing in the league, good luck the first week, unless you're playing me or Deron, but we're playing each other the first week. And definitely it'll start going when the waiver wires, because people are going to look at their thing, I don't need that guy drafted. And I'm going to look at mine and go, wait a minute, Chris Davis can't play for at least one game, but he'll be back, so I probably won't drop him. But if somebody gets hurt, I'll need to move some guys around. And I just saw that my shortstop went on day-to-day, Elvis Andrews. So I'll have to check that out. But.
And I know we got quite a few new people playing this year and guys that have been playing so I'm gonna give you this one little tip here that I discovered because I wasn't sure. I was going to maybe claim some guys on waivers.
Darren usually doesn't share anything.
No, I don't. And we've got the 3 pickup limit per
3 drop ads a week.
3 drop ads.
Yeah. Change your lineup as much as you want during the week, in the morning before the game, but only 3 drop ads.
And it's actually per matchup, which means this week before the first game is unlimited pickups. You can pick up whoever you want. It's not, because I was starting to think, I want to claim this guy. Ooh, that's going to be one of my per matchup. Yeah. It's going to be one of my 1 pickups for this first week, but it's not. Up until the first game, you can do as much as you want. So Team Britain, if you got a bunch of guys you don't like from your auto draft, drop away, and you can make some waiver claims. And
I would say to anybody who's got guys on the team they don't like, you should seek a trade first, because you might not like the guy, and there might have been a guy drafting 3 behind you. It was like, I wish I had that guy.
That's right.
So check out who you might want to make a trade with, and the best trades are the trades that everybody feels like they got a good deal on. I mean, it's very rare you can take somebody and make a bunch and they don't go for it. So a good solid trade, of value. And we get to vote on the trades, right? It takes like 3 or 4 to veto it. So if somebody does make a trade, you go, oh, that's crazy. The other players in the league can veto it. That doesn't happen very often, though.
No.
Because typically, we got some smart people in the league. A trade's going to be valuable on both sides, and you can see why I might trade a great hitter for a great closer.
Right.
Because I just need that to help me win those categories.
And we've got, I think we set up for 2 days for league review. So you'll have plenty of time, 2 or 3 days to review the trade, because in the past I've been in leagues where it's just 1 day, and maybe someone didn't see that the trade was happening, and like, well, I would have voted against it if I would have known it. So
does that count as a drop ad, though? A trade?
It does not. No.
So you just switch them in their lineup. So
yeah.
whenever it happens, it could happen on a Thursday, and then it goes through on a Thursday. You can play them Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And if you get a 2-for-1 on a trade too, it doesn't count, even though you're getting an extra player. So
yeah, because it doesn't have to be player for player. If you don't want to trade one of your top guys, to leverage 2 or 3 guys in return or 2 guys in return, you can do that. You just have to make room on your roster. If you trade 1 and you're getting 2 back, you have to drop somebody.
Absolutely.
To do that. Last thing, we just so everybody knows, we're going to put this up on SoundCloud. We're looking at getting this on iTunes. We send out the links to people on our Facebook pages, and we're going to put it up on YouTube again. We're not in the last one. We said, oh, check our Facebook page. We're not going to do a Facebook page for Fantasy Sports Wrap, but you know how to get a hold of us. And we're not going to do a Twitter account right now for Fantasy Sports Wrap, but we'll get it out. And we encourage you, if you're watching this, share it with everybody. Have them take a look at it. And
we had some people that aren't even playing that really thought it was a good show, and was kind of fun to watch us do a show on YouTube. So anyway,
and when's the first game? When do we start?
First game is Sunday.
Sunday.
Cubs at Cardinals. No, Cardinals at Cubs.
Cardinals at Cubs. That's just the one game, right?
Just the one game,
and then on Monday.
On Monday and Tuesday. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So next time you see us, we'll have an idea of who's either winning. We might do a cast like on that Friday in the midweek and tell everybody kind of where we're at. That'd be kind of fun.
That'd be kind of cool.
Instead of waiting a whole another week to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We might throw something out there maybe a week from this Wednesday or Thursday, something like that.
Anything else, Deron?
That should do it.
All right, everybody who drafted, thanks. Thanks for joining the league. Thanks for letting us share and talk about you and everything in front of millions of people worldwide. And Deron, good luck.
Good luck to you. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
All righty.
Thanks for joining us on the Fantasy Sports App. We'll see you next time.